Hey guys, I'm back for our video on the actual bath bombs. It seems like I've gotten a huge following of people wanting them. Hi Macy, that's our cat. Forgive her, she escapes to her castle away from the puppy. So I'm really excited that you guys liked the embeds. Just to show you a kind of final product, I ended up doing a bunch more the next day. And these are what they turned out like. So I have orange, red, blue, and a green. And something that I forgot to mention is sometimes if you are in an area with lots of humidity, like here we just happen to have a lot of humidity because we're in Washington and it rains and whatnot, sometimes they may poof up more than others. Like the green ones you'll notice are a little poofier than like say these red ones. It's okay if they poof up a little bit, they'll still fizz just fine. That is normal, but if they completely fizzle out, which you would notice from the ones I showed you, that's when they're pretty much not useless, or they are useless. So if you want to test it, just throw it in some hot water. If it fizzles, it's great. If not, don't use them. And the colors I used for those ones were actually different. I actually used the colors that they use at like the color runs and stuff that you hear about, and they look like this. You can also buy them on Amazon. Everything I have here tonight you can purchase on Amazon, except for obviously our oils and some of my molds I chose to buy at Michael's, but I do believe that they have them online as well. So here's the wonderful, much sought after recipe. Like I said, it's taken us about a month to come up with this recipe through endless trials my poor husband and children have had to deal with. And so let's get started. I'm going to take you through the ingredients for wet and dry, and then we're going to mix it together. So first of all, you're going to start with your dry ingredients. You need baking soda, citric acid, and then this is one of the secret ingredients. You need some kaolin clay. It's spelled right here, Kaolin, kaolin clay. Again, it's on Amazon. So you'll need these three ingredients, and then if you want to add any colorant at this point, if you want your bath bomb as a whole to be a color, now you will add it in with the dry, and you can add as much colorant as you see fit. I will just remind you, if you add a bunch of colorant because you want it to be a really vibrant color, you'll need to consider adding more of your wet ingredients, otherwise the mixture will be too dry. So just keep that in mind. I'm doing them white because I like all the really colorful embeds to come through. So that's my, what I'm doing tonight. You also can add things like glitter in the dry ingredients. Some people add like dry lavender. You're welcome to add any of those at this stage. Just keep the dry with the dry and the wet with the wet. Is she coming down? Hi, Macy.
Stalking you.
She's stalking us. Then we move to the wet ingredients, where there's also a secret ingredient on that side. So the things you're going to use on your wet ingredient side is you're going to use vegetable glycerin, and you're going to use witch hazel, and you're going to use pure polysorbate 80. Also, you can find it on Amazon. I will warn you, it claims it's prime, but it did take a couple extra days to get here. What this does is it's an emulsifier, so it actually helps to create the fizziness longer, and that was one of our big things that we discovered made a huge difference, was that polysorbate. We tried it with and without it, we did not get that fizziness to last quite as long. So you can find that again on Amazon, and then you'll need your oils. Tonight, I am doing my version of, I call it maybe like a poor man's Christmas spirit. Christmas spirit, as we know, has cinnamon, orange, and the northern spruce. I didn't have enough Christmas spirit to make more of them, so I made orange, cinnamon bark, and Idaho balsam fir. And they actually turned out really, really good together. So those are the three I'm going to do tonight because I had a couple of requests for it from some family members. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first step is you're going to mix all the dry ingredients together in a large bowl. And just like with the embeds, I recommend you putting them through a strainer to keep them smooth and get rid of any clumps. It just helps to have it mixing together better from the get-go. And you need 2 cups of baking soda. And because this is such a small hole, I'm using a 1/3 cup, so I'm just going to do 6 of these. So, aha, I found our missing one. And a thank you to my husband for being my cinematographer, if you will. So 1, 2. kind of good news is it doesn't have to be exact science. I mean, you'll get the hang of it once you've done these a couple times. You'll get the hang of it, and if your moisture seems, or your mixture seems too dry, you can just add a little more of the dry versus the wet and whatnot. So put that in there, and then so we have 2 cups of baking soda. We need 1.5 cups of citric acid. Right. And there's our 1.5 cups. And I've made a mess over here. So I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. Thank you all again for being patient. We just had a baby, our last baby 8 weeks ago. So we're dueling 3 children here and a new puppy. And so I was waiting for everyone to get in bed before I did this tonight. Okay, so we have our baking soda, we have our citric acid. Now we're gonna add our kaolin clay. I think I'm pronouncing that right. You need 1.5 tablespoons of the kaolin clay. And from what I can gather when I did some research, this kind of helps smooth it. It's a really soft powder, so the clay helps just give it a softer feature. And it kind of helps to help the mixture just bond a little bit better, almost. Are we still getting it? Oh, we have an audience. All right, so we're gonna add that kaolin clay in here. And then I'm just gonna leave this for a second until I'm ready to get gloves on and mix. So you have your 3 items together. You're gonna stir those up a little bit. I like to stir them with my hand, but I don't want to put gloves on until I'm ready. So now we're gonna mix our wet ingredients. So it's basically a 1-to-1 ratio all across the board, which is great. So it's 1 tablespoon of oil, 1 tablespoon of polysorbate, and 1 tablespoon of witch hazel. And you know what I realized I just did? I totally used the wrong thing. Almond oil, that's what we needed. Yay! Good thing my bewitched nose still works after all these years. Okay, so sorry about that. We need almond oil. You could probably use vegetable glycerin. It's just a binder. Almond oil has more of that moisturizing aspect to it since you're using a bath bomb. So 1 tablespoon of oil, 1 tablespoon polysorbate 80, 1 tablespoon witch hazel, and about 20 to 30 drops of essential oils, which is again optional. Obviously we love our oils, so we want to use them. And again, you can use as many drops as you want. I like really fragrant bath bombs, so I use 20 to 30 drops, which is quite a bit. It's also one of the reasons why sometimes I like to mix ones together, so I'm not just draining one whole bottle of one. So in this case, I'm gonna do like 11 of orange, about 9 of cinnamon, and about 9 or so of the Idaho balsam fir. And we're ready to mix, so let's get going. I'm gonna don my gloves because I don't like to get dirty. And so, and I find it's just easier to mix with my hands. And I will tell you the trick that we're looking for. I'm gonna measure my wet ingredients real quick. So I'm gonna start with my oil. And you don't need a big container for this one because you're only doing about 3 or 4 tablespoons of stuff. So there's one. Now, the witch hazel, you don't need it per se, so if you forget it, don't think that like you've ruined your bath bomb. The reason I added it is I did do one batch where I didn't add it because I forgot. And I found that they didn't dry as quickly because the witch hazel is really meant to help it dry. So that's just my piece of advice. I add it because I like them to get really hard. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, move on to my cinnamon.
Ah, smells good.
I promise, ladies, I'm not paying him to be here and endorse my product. Six, 7, 8, 9. All right, and then I always kind of mix it together. I smell it to make sure I've got the kind of scent that I want. I think I want just a tad bit more of orange. I need my courtesy sniffer too. Tell me. Good? All right. Now, we're going to mix our stuff together. So, here's where the fun part kind of comes in. So, I'm going to make sure all my dry ingredients are mixed. The good news is since we've added the witch hazel to the other mixture, unlike when we made the embeds and you added the witch hazel into the embed mixture, it got really, like, you started to see it react, so you had to move really quickly. You do need to move quickly here, but it doesn't react quite as fast because you have all the other oils that it's mixed in with, which is great, but I still like to move quickly. So note that right now it's obviously like sand, it's very dry. Now I'm going to add in our wet mixture. You can see just, I don't really get a whole lot of reaction there. Now I'm going to get my hands in here and I'm going to start mixing. I just do it with one hand because I like to use my other hand to really turn the bowl around. Now, the consistency you're looking for is you want it to feel like kinetic sand. So if you have kids and they've played with kinetic sand before, you kind of want that feeling almost. Another thing I think of it is almost like when I'm mixing pie crust for you bakers out there, like when I'm first kind of mixing in that like cold butter and stuff and you're kind of getting that where it's just starting to stick together. And you'll think it's too dry. Like that looks dry, doesn't it? It looks pretty dry. But the way I test it is if I were to pick up a section and I squeeze it and it stays in that form even when I drop it. See, when I drop it, it still stays in this kind of form. It's ready. So a lot of people make it too wet, and it doesn't need to be wet. So I'm just going to make sure I'm all the way mixed, and now I'm ready to start putting them in the mold. So let's come over here. This one recipe makes about 4 large bath bombs. So I have different ones here. I have my ones I ordered on Amazon, the metal ones, and I have my really large ones, which are what I'm going to do tonight. And I'm going to show you how we do it with the embeds, because this is kind of the fun part that I love. So I'm also going to try to teach you a trick. I have done some research on how to make them spin, and I feel like I'm still about half the time getting them to spin and half the time I'm not. So what you're going to do is take 1/2 of your mold. Again, I got these at Michael's for like $1.
Christmas tree ornaments.
They're Christmas tree ornaments. So then I just, put some on the side, kind of just move it around really lightly. And then you're going to pick a couple embeds. So I'm going to do, I'll do a couple small, maybe a blue over here and an orange. You can do as many as you want. And then you're going to stick, just fill it up. You could also do, now maybe I'll do a red, maybe a green, okay? And then you're going to kind of overfill it. Kind of see how it's heaping like this? Okay? And then you're going to do the same thing with the other side. Now, I have read, and it's worked in some of mine, a trick where, nope, I'm going to do it a little differently. For this one, I'll do that next. What I have noticed is some people have said if you take, and on one side of the bath bomb, you make like a finger indent, it kind of sets the balance off of the ball, and that's what helps it to spin. Other people have said that doesn't work. Some people, I think, say it's if you kind of load one side heavier than the other. So it's kind of up to you to try it. I just, try different things. I have had most of mine spin, but Not all do. So notice they're both heaping over. So now I'm just going to take them and I'm just going to press them together. And it is kind of like a sand. It's like a sand mixture, like a kind of wet sand mixture. And then I just take it over to my cupcake holder and I place them in. Now, again, you can actually take this off. Only the top. I wouldn't take the bottom off. It's still wet enough that it would fall apart. However, I will say, depending on, again, the moisture of the area you're in, I noticed on a couple that I had that when I left it out, I'll show you one. So this one, when I left it out, like this, where I had half of it in the mold and half it not, the stuff, the part that was in the mold stayed really smooth. And the part that was out of the mold actually kind of reacted a little bit from the moisture in the air. So I would say if you can, I would leave the top on for a day or so and keep it as smooth as possible. And then take it off in about a day, 24 hours or so, and then let it dry the rest of the way. So that is really how you do it. Another way you can do the embeds that I think is really cool if you don't want to do all the small ones is because it's going to kind of melt, you know, outside in like a layer, is you can take some of these kind of bigger ones and you can just place it right in the middle, right? And then do a small layer of, you know, mixture, and then do, you know, a green, and then do another layer. And you could finish off with, well, we'll just do this side. My big blue ones are in my other pan. So we could do a big orange, fill it up. We'll do a couple blues right in the middle. And this is where, on the kids one that I showed you guys, this is where I would have put that little capsule of the things that grew. I put it right here in the middle. And that way when I put these two together, it would have just been right inside there. Another idea I had was to do like coins in the middle, or like our son loves gold dollar coins. You could stick those in the middle if they wanted. So it was like as a prize when they took a bath. Oh, here's a great thing to show you. So see how this kind of cracked? It didn't work. It just means I didn't pack it tight enough. See that crack right there? So I just need to start over, and it's not bad to start over. Just, you know what? Because the embeds are nice and dry, just take them out. Okay, and just try again. Nothing wrong. And that right there. So I'm just going to redo it for you. You can see that it's okay to have a little mistake. Happens to the best of us. Yes, the key is to really overpacking it so that you don't have that issue. So now I'm back to having two heaping piles. Stick them together. And there you go. All right, I hope that helps. If you have questions, write them on the comments, PM me. I'm happy to do another video if that's easier. I'm also happy to, I'm gonna put the ingredients up. If it's helpful, where if some of you guys end up getting the ingredients and you wanna do a live video where we make them at the same time so you can input your questions as you're making it, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to do it. I'm making a bunch of these for the holiday season. And then stay tuned for my next project. I'm trying right now to master the art of the shower disc because I'm more of a shower person with 3 kids who has time for a bath. So join me next time, and I hope that this was helpful for somebody. Bye-bye.